And a lot of you have been responding positively to it. Justice, was it served for Mido Macia's death? SMS M Live with your comment to 33726. Remember that each SMS will cost you R1.50. And in a short while, we're actually going to be talking to Dr. Johan Burger from the Institute of Securities Studies. And, in fact, we're talking to him right now. I beg your pardon. I thought it was a bit later on the program. But we're going to be talking to him now about this story. And yesterday, the 8 police officers, let me name them for you. It was Meshack Malele, Thamsanqa Ngema, Percy Mnisi, Bongamusa Mdluli, Sipho Ngobeni, and Lungisa Gwababa, as well as Bongani, Kolisi, and Sololo. They were all found guilty of the murder of Mozambican taxi driver Mido Macia. This happened on the 26th of February 2013. They've each been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment by the Pretoria High Court's Judge Bert. Macia was handcuffed to the back of a police vehicle and dragged. He was later found dead in a police cell. Well, as I said, on the line now to talk about this is Dr. Johan Burger from the Institute of Securities Studies. Dr. Burger, thank you, as always, for joining us here on the program.
Yeah, thank you and good morning.
So we talk about 15 years for each one of them. Do you think the sentence was appropriate?
Yes, I think so. You know, I listened to the judge justifying that sentence, and I think under the circumstances that is precisely that. It's appropriate. It's also, it sends a message to all other police officers that this kind of unlawful conduct will not be tolerated by our courts, and in fact, this type of conduct by police officers are looked at more severely when it's perpetrated by police officers than by ordinary citizens.
Yeah. Do you think this well, obviously you find the sentence appropriate, but that it's really evident that the trust between the general public and the police has been tarnished. When we talk about relationships, how in your view can it be fixed?
Then I think we find ourselves in an extremely difficult position at the moment. We have high levels of crime, very violent crime. We have our police in the front line against these violent criminals. We have high numbers of police officers also being targeted and many killed in the process. And therefore, you have a certain section of the public that more than sympathize with the police, that to some extent seem to be in support of them just using a little more force than they are entitled to in terms of the law. In fact, we saw this with the Krugersdorp incident. So on the one hand, that is the sentiment. On the other hand, once police officers are involved in an incident that is regarded as police brutality, then the expectation is that those police officers must be prosecuted, must be convicted, and must be severely punished. So you know, I think it's a very difficult situation to describe, and I think what this case now does is, to some extent, it brings some calm to this debate, saying that we take cognizance of the fact that we are we find ourselves in a violent society, we find ourselves in a situation of high levels of crime and so on, but we cannot allow our police officers to do what the criminals do. Criminals work outside of the law. We cannot have a situation where our police officers do the same. So we need to be professional at all times. And where you find yourselves outside of the law as the police, then certainly you will face the full might of the law. And that sort of calm, that clear message, I think, is what this court case brings to us.
Yeah. But is it fair to blame the stressful nature of a police officer's work on their behavior?
Well, to some extent it is. But, you know, we must make a clear distinction between explaining the conduct of the police and then justifying their conduct. Certainly, there are many reasons why police officers act in the way they do, and those reasons, I think, need to be properly interrogated and then addressed. Some of them are internal issues that relates to counseling, that relates to all kinds of other pressures. And then there are the external factors that relates to the expectations that the police must deal more effectively with crime and so on, and we, of course, the criminals themselves. We need to address those issues, but we cannot then, by looking at those issues, then start justifying what the police do once they act extrajudicially, as they did in so many cases, and clearly shown now in the Krugersdorp case.
Yeah. I mean, again, let's bring this issue of respect into the fore. Do you think also that the lack of respect and trust the public have for the police could be contributing to the police killings that we're seeing as well?
Well, in many ways, it can. It becomes a very complex issue, I think, because, as I said, there are all these internal and external factors. We know that our police service has been struggling. They've been struggling because of leadership problems. We've seen the debacle around the National Commissioner of some senior generals. We also know that there are problems that relates in many cases to training. For example, just a few years ago, the acting National Commissioner of Police, Mkhwanazi, issued a statement that said almost a third of police officers were not able to successfully complete their competency training for the use of firearms. So now you find a situation on the one hand where the public, or then, a large portion of the public, does not have any trust and confidence in the police service, the respect that you are referring to, because they feel that they do not get the kind of professional service from the police, attention that is quite many examples of that. But we also find a situation where criminals, in very derogatory terms, refer to the police, laughing about the police's competency with the use of firearms, clearly bragging about the fact that in any shooting situation, they will outgun the police simply because they handle their guns better than the police. So all around, I think there is a decline in the respect that people have for the police. Some would refer to fear of the police. I think fear is the wrong word, but it is the knowledge that if you overstep the line, that the police will act against you, and they will act against you competently. And I don't think that situation exists in South Africa at the moment. Therefore, we have this decline in respect for the police.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Dr. Johan Burger from the Institute of Securities Studies, thank you very much for talking to us, focusing in on Mido Macia, the death of the late Mozambican who was killed and, I suppose, dragged behind a vehicle. We've seen this footage so many times, but the court case has now handed down 15 years to the police officers that were involved in this, each of them getting 15 years.